One afternoon in October, a lawyer's calm voice stole my name from my own history. The bakery chain my hands rebuilt the legacy I quietly carried given away. To the brother who gambled it. To the family who watched. I didn't yell. I just decided no more shadows. No more silence. The rain tapped against the tall windows of the law office like it was trying to get in. A slow, steady drum. October in the Midwest always felt like this gray, heavy, unwilling to let go. I sat across from Mr. Caldwell, the family lawyer since before I was born, leather chair creaking under me, hands folded too tight in my lap. I could smell the old books and the faint coffee from the machine in the hall, the same coffee my grandfather used to brew in the back of the first Whitaker Bakery on Maple Street. Mr. Caldwell adjusted his reading glasses, cleared his throat once, twice. Then he began. Last will and testament of Elias Whitaker. The words came out measured, professional, but each one landed like a stone dropped into still water. I stared at the carpet, dark green, worn in the center where so many feet had stood before mine. I already knew something was wrong. The room felt smaller than it should, the air thicker. I hereby bequeath all shares, assets, real property, intellectual property, and operational control of Whitaker Bakery and Coffee House Enterprises. He paused, just long enough for my pulse to spike. In its entirety to my youngest grandson, Grayson Whitaker. Silence. Not the kind that follows a surprise. The kind that follows a betrayal you half expected, but still prayed wouldn't come. My breath caught, stuck somewhere between ribs and throat. I didn't move, didn't blink, just felt the floor tilt under the chair. Grayson, 26. The baby brother who'd never held a job longer than 6 months, who'd borrowed money from me 3 times last year alone, once for rent, once for a business idea that vanished once because he needed to get away for a while. Grayson who'd laughed when I told him the company was bleeding red ink and I'd spent my own savings redesigning the stores so we wouldn't close. All of it. Every brick. Every recipe card my grandfather wrote by hand. Every late-night blueprint I drew when the banks were calling. Gone. To him. Mr. Caldwell kept reading, voice steady as if he were ordering lunch. Thane Whitaker is intentionally omitted from this distribution. Omitted. Such a clean word for erased. I felt heat rise behind my eyes. Not tears, not yet, just pressure. Like someone had wrapped both hands around my chest and squeezed. I thought of the night 3 years ago. 2 a.m. in the original store on Maple. Rain just like this. I'd sat alone at the counter with graph paper and a dying fluorescent bulb overhead. Red ink everywhere. Debts late suppliers, health code violations piling up because Dad refused to spend a dime on repairs. I'd used every cent of the advance from my first big architecture commission to pay those bills. Quietly. No one asked me to. No one thanked me. I just did it. Because it was grandfather's name on the sign. Because it was home. And now that name belonged to Grayson. I lifted my gaze. Mr. Caldwell met my eyes for half a second, then looked away. He knew. Everyone in this town knew the Whitaker boys weren't raised equal. Harlan, my father, had always said Grayson was the spark, the charming one, the one who made people laugh at parties, the one who needed protecting. Marigold, my mother, would nod and smooth Grayson's hair like he was still 10. Sable, my older sister, would roll her eyes and post another filtered photo of her perfect life, with Boone, her husband, who talked big and delivered nothing. They'd all be thrilled. Of course they would. Grayson getting everything meant the family fortune stayed in the bloodline. Me, I was the steady one, the reliable one, the one who fixed things so no one else had to. And fixing things apparently didn't earn you a seat at the table. My fingers dug into the armrest, leather cool under my palms. I wanted to speak, to ask why, to demand an explanation. But the question that rose instead was quieter, smaller, and far more dangerous. If I had given everything and still ended up with nothing, what was left to give? Mr. Caldwell finished, folded the papers, looked at me with the practiced sympathy of someone who's delivered this speech before. "Thane," he said softly. "Do you have any questions?" I opened my mouth, closed it, swallowed once. The rain kept falling. Outside, a car horn sounded short, impatient. Life moving on, without me. I stood slowly, legs unsteady, picked up my coat. The wool was damp from the walk in. I didn't bother shaking it off. I think my voice sounded far away. "I need some air." He nodded, didn't try to stop me. The hallway smelled of wet leaves and floor polish. I pushed through the heavy glass door. Cold slapped my face. Rain slanted sideways now, soaking my shirt in seconds. I stood under the awning anyway, watching water rush down the gutter, car light streaking gold across black pavement. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a voice. My grandfather's voice whispered the same thing he used to say when I was small and afraid of thunderstorms. "Storms pass, kid, but the house has to stand." I closed my eyes, felt the first real crack inside my chest. Not anger, not yet, just grief. For the boy who believed family meant something unbreakable, and for the man who finally understood it didn't. When blood becomes a blade, when love turns into leverage, when everything you built is handed to someone who never lifted a finger, what do? Do you stay quiet, swallow the hurt, keep the peace at any cost, or do you finally walk away and maybe build something no one can ever take again? That's the story you're about to hear. Not a loud revenge, not a courtroom drama, but the quiet kind. The kind that hurts to watch and heals to finish. Because sometimes the greatest justice isn't taking back what was stolen. It's creating something they can never touch. I walked out of that law office into the rain like a man stepping off the edge of something solid. The drops hit my face, hard, cold needles. I didn't bother pulling up my collar. Let it soak through. Let it sting. Maybe if I felt something on the outside, the inside would stop screaming. The streets of Elmwood were quiet that afternoon. Just the hiss of tires on wet asphalt and the low hum of a distant train. I kept walking. Past the hardware store where grandfather used to buy his nails by the pound. Past the little park where Grayson and I used to chase fireflies until Mom called us in. Past everything that used to mean family. 7 years ago, I came back here. Not because I wanted to, because I had to. The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was on a job site in Chicago steel beams going up skyline sharp against the lake. Dad's voice on the phone was flat, almost bored. "The bakery's in trouble, son. Banks are circling. Your grandfather's name is on the line." He didn't ask, he stated. And I heard the unspoken part clear as day. "Fix it. You always do." So I quit the firm. Sold the condo. Moved back into the small house on Cedar Lane with Leora and the kids still in diapers then. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself family was worth it. The first thing I did was sit in the original store after closing. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, tables sticky with spilled syrup, walls yellowed from years of coffee steam. I spread out rolls of trace paper and started drawing. New layout, open shelving, warm wood instead of chipped formica. A corner with books and soft chairs so people would stay longer. A signature mural on the back wall, abstract waves of coffee beans and wheat fields. Something that felt like home without feeling stuck. I paid for the first remodel out of my own pocket. $28,000. Every cent I'd saved from that Chicago gig. No one asked where the money came from. No one offered to pay me back. When the new look opened, sales jumped 30% in the first month. Grandfather clapped me on the shoulder once, only once, and said, "Not bad, kid." Then he went back to his booth by the window and read the paper like nothing had changed. I didn't stop. I redesigned the second location, then the third, then the fourth and fifth. Each one a little better, each one pulling more customers. I worked nights, weekends, missed Caspian's first steps because I was meeting with contractors, missed Eloan's preschool play because the plumbing failed at store number 3, and I was the only one who knew how to talk the inspector down. And through it all, the family watched. Harlan would stop by, order black coffee, sit for 10 minutes, then leave without a word about the new design. Marigold would bring cookies she baked at home for the staff and smile like she was doing me a favor. Sable would post photos on Instagram, her posing with a latte caption, "Living my best life at the fam biz, #blessed #Whitaker vibes." Boone would tag along, sometimes lean against the counter, crack jokes about how I should loosen up, then ask if I could spot him a couple hundred for a quick investment. Grayson was the storm cloud that never quite broke. He'd show up high or hungover, borrow cash from the register when no one was looking, disappear for weeks, come back with stories no one believed. One night the sheriff called at 2 a.m. Grayson had been picked up outside a casino 2 counties over. Gambling debts. Again. I drove out in the dark, paid the bail with the last of my emergency fund. He didn't say, "Thank you," just muttered, "You're too good for this place anyway," and passed out in the passenger seat. I never told anyone how close I came to breaking, how some mornings I'd sit in the car outside the house, engine off, staring at the dashboard, wondering if I could just drive away. Keep going until the Midwest ended and something else began. Leora saw it first. She'd find me in the kitchen at dawn, coffee gone cold, staring at nothing. One night she sat across from me at the table, hair in a messy bun, eyes tired but steady. "Thane," she said quietly, "you're disappearing, piece by piece, and no one's even noticing." I tried to laugh it off. Couldn't. The sound came out cracked. That's when she gave me the card. Naomi Reyes, therapist, specialized in family systems and burnout. "Talk to her," Leora said. "Not for them, for you." The first session I sat in Naomi's small office above the bookstore on Main. Bookshelves lined the walls, a single fern in the corner. She didn't rush me, just waited. I talked about the bakery, about the designs, about the money I'd poured in, about how no one ever said thank you. Not really. She listened, then she leaned forward. Soft voice. Steady. "Sacrifice isn't love if it only flows one way, Thane. Love, real love, has give and take. When it's all give, it stops being love. It becomes something else." I felt the words land somewhere deep, like a key turning in a lock I didn't know was there. I left that office lighter, not fixed, but breathing easier. Still, I kept going, kept designing, kept paying, kept hoping that one day they'd see me, really see me. Until the day Mr. Caldwell read those words, "Omitted." And everything I'd buried, the resentment, the exhaustion, the quiet rage, rose up slow and unstoppable, like groundwater after years of rain. I stood under that awning in the downpour, rain dripping from my hair, soaking my shoes, and for the first time in 7 years I let myself ask the question out loud. What if I stopped? What if I walked away? Not in anger, not in a fight, just stopped carrying what was never mine to carry alone. The thought terrified me, made my stomach twist, made my hands shake, but beneath the fear, something else flickered. Small, sharp, bright. Possibility. The rain had stopped by Saturday evening, but the air still hung heavy damp like it was holding its breath. I drove the old Subaru up the long gravel drive to the house on Whitaker Lane, the one grandfather built in '68, the one with the wraparound porch and the creaky screen door that never quite closed right. Lights glowed in every window. Warm, welcoming, from the outside. I parked behind Sable's white SUV. Boone's truck was already there, chrome gleaming under the floodlight. I sat for a long minute with the engine off, keys still in my hand, fingers cold, heart thudding slow and deliberate like it knew what was coming and didn't want any part of it. Leora had offered to come. I told her no. This wasn't her fight. Not yet. She kissed my cheek at the door, whispered, "Come home whole," and watched me leave like I was walking into surgery. The front door opened before I knocked. Marigold stood there in her cardigan arms, cross-smile thin as paper. "Thane, we're all waiting." Inside smelled like cinnamon and old wood. The same smell since I was a kid. Harlan sat in grandfather's recliner, his recliner now like he owned the room. Sable perched on the arm of the couch phone in hand scrolling. Boone sprawled beside her legs, wide beer bottle balanced on his knee. Grayson slouched in the corner chair, hoodie up, eyes on the floor. He didn't look up when I walked in. I took the empty spot on the love seat, the one nobody ever sat in because it faced the recliner directly, like it was built for confrontation. Harlan cleared his throat. No hello. No small talk. Just straight in. "We're here to make this official," he said. "Elias's will is clear. Grayson gets the company. All of it. Shares, properties, recipes, the name, everything." He paused, looked around like he was waiting for applause. Sable nodded quickly. "That makes sense. Grayson's the youngest, the last Whitaker boy. It keeps the legacy in the blood." Boone raised his bottle in a lazy toast. "Hell yeah, family first." Grayson finally lifted his head, eyes red-rimmed. A half-smile flickered, then died. He didn't speak, just nodded once. I felt the words rise in my throat, hot, sharp. I swallowed them once, twice, then let them out. No, one word, quiet, but it landed like a dropped plate. Harlan's eyebrows shot up. "What did you say?" I said no, my voice steadier now. "I've spent 7 years keeping that company alive. My designs, my savings, my nights. If it goes to Grayson, fine, but not without acknowledging what I did. Not like I don't exist." Silence stretched, thick, uncomfortable. Sable laughed, short, sharp, disbelieving. "Oh my God, Thane. Really? You're gonna do this now?" Harlan leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "You think you're the only one who worked? I ran that place for 30 years before you ever picked up a pencil. Your mother kept the books. Sable's been posting about it for years, free marketing. And you come in with your fancy drawings and think you own it. I never said I owned it," I answered. "I just said I saved it." Boone snorted. "Saved it? Bro, you redesigned a couple coffee shops. Big deal. Grayson's blood. That's what matters." Grayson shifted, mumbled something low, didn't meet my eyes. Marigold's voice cut through soft pleading. "Thane, honey, don't make this ugly. We're family. Family." The word tasted like rust. I looked at each of them, one by one. Harlan's hard jaw, Marigold's worried eyes, Sable's smirk, Boone's smirk, Grayson's avoidance, and something inside me cracked wide open. Not loud, not violent, just final. I stood, slowly, legs steady now. "I'm not fighting for the company," I said. "I'm not asking for shares. I'm not asking for thanks. I'm just telling you once that what you're doing isn't right, and I won't pretend it is." Harlan's face darkened. "You selfish little..." I didn't wait for the rest. I walked out, through the living room, past the photos on the wall, me at 10 holding a hammer, Grayson at 4 on grandfather's shoulders. Past the kitchen where Marigold used to make pancakes on Sunday mornings. Out the front door. The night air hit me cool and clean. I stood on the porch for a second, breath fogging. Then I pulled out my phone. Text to Elias Thorne, my college roommate, the one who'd stuck around through every all-nighter and bad breakup. "Architect like me, better with numbers. Can we meet tomorrow? My place. Need to talk about something big." Then another. To Victor Lang, the investor who'd funded 2 of my independent projects back in Chicago. Quiet money, smart money, the kind that didn't ask questions unless the answers mattered. "Victor, I'm starting something new. Need your brain. And maybe your checkbook. Call me." I slid the phone back in my pocket. Looked up at the house, light still on. Voices murmuring inside. Arguing now. About me, I walked to the car. Didn't look back. That night I didn't sleep. Lay beside Leora in the dark, her hand on my chest, steady, warm. I stared at the ceiling, tracing cracks I'd meant to fix for years, and in the quiet, the idea took shape. Not revenge, not a fight, something cleaner, something mine. I would stop carrying their weight, stop fixing their world, and start building one of my own, one they couldn't reach, one they couldn't claim, one they'd have to watch grow from the outside. The storm was gathering, but I wasn't running from it anymore. I was walking straight into it, and for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid. The days after that Saturday on the porch blurred into something quiet and deliberate, like walking through fog, slow steps, careful breathing, eyes fixed on what's just ahead. I didn't slam doors, didn't scream. I just started moving in a different direction. Monday morning, I sat at the kitchen table before the kids woke. Laptop open, coffee untouched. I drafted the letter myself. 1 page, single-spaced, no anger in the words, just clarity. Effective immediately, I resigned from my unpaid advisory role in design and concept development for Whitaker Bakery and Coffee House Enterprises. All future decisions regarding aesthetics, branding, and spatial planning are no longer my responsibility. I read it 3 times, felt the weight lift off my shoulders with each pass, hit send to the company email, CC'd to Harlan Marigold and the accountant who still sent me monthly reports I'd never asked for. No reply came that day, or the next. I didn't wait for one. Next came the paperwork. I met Elias Thorne at a small diner on the edge of town, neutral ground, Vinyl Booth's coffee that tasted like memory. He slid into the seat across from me, wearing the same worn leather jacket from college. Looked at me for a long second, then grinned slow. About damn time. We spent 3 hours there, not planning revenge, planning freedom. I showed him the files, every sketch, every render, every hand-drawn detail I'd poured into those stores over 7 years. The logo I'd redesigned in secret because the old one looked dated, the open floor layouts that made people linger, the signature walnut counters with the subtle grain that caught the light just right. All of it mine. Copyrighted in my name, because I'd never trusted anyone else to protect it. Elias leaned back, whistled low. "You're sitting on gold here, man. We file the transfer today. Everything moves to Havenline Studios. Your name, your rules." I nodded, throat tight. It felt like cutting a cord I'd been tied to since I was 25. That afternoon, I incorporated Havenline Studios, a simple LLC, registered in the next county over. No fanfare, just a quiet click of submit. Naomi Reyes saw me the following Tuesday. Her office still smelled like books and faint lavender. She listened while I told her what I'd done. No interruptions. When I finished, she sat forward, eyes steady. "Thane," she said softly, "justice isn't about reclaiming what was taken. It's about building something no one can ever steal again. You're not erasing them. You're erasing the part of you that let them define your worth." The word settled deep, warm, sharp. I left that session lighter than I'd felt in years. Victor Lang called 2 days later. Voice, calm, direct. I read the proposal. Small seed round. Enough to get the first location off the ground. I'm in. But only if you promise me one thing. I waited. "Don't look back," he said. "Not even once." I promised. The family noticed the silence eventually. Harlan called first, left a voicemail that started polite and ended sharp. "Thane, we need to talk about the stores. The new manager says the lighting's off in number 2. You always handled that. Call me." I listened once, deleted it, didn't call back. Sable posted a story the next week. Black and white photo of the original store sign at dusk. Caption, "When family walks away." Guess some people were never really in it. Hashtag family first, hashtag Whitaker legacy. Tagged me. I saw the notification, tapped it, watched it once, then turned off read receipts, blocked her stories, blocked her number. Boone texted once, "Hey bro, Sable's upset. Grayson's trying, but he needs help with the books. You gonna ghost your own blood? I stared at the screen until it went dark, then deleted the thread. Grayson never reached out. Not once. One night in late November, the sky opened again. Rain like it remembered October. I drove alone to Maple Street, parked across from the first store, the one I'd saved when the lights were about to go out for good. I didn't go in, just stood under the street lamp, water running off my hood, soaking my boots. The sign glowed through the rain-smeared glass. Whitaker Bakery and Coffee House. Gold letters on black. The logo I'd drawn at 3 a.m. 7 years ago. The layout I'd fought for. The space I'd made breathe again. A family hurried past mom, dad, 2 kids laughing under one umbrella. They ducked inside. Warm light spilled out onto the sidewalk. Laughter followed. I watched them disappear behind the door, felt the old ache rise sharp familiar. Then I let it pass through me. Like smoke, I turned, walked back to the car, didn't look over my shoulder. The engine started soft. Headlights cut through the downpour. I pulled away. Slow, streetlight streaking wet across the windshield. In the rearview mirror, the sign grew smaller, smaller, until it was just a faint golden blur. And then, nothing. I exhaled. Long, slow. The breath I'd been holding for 7 years. That was the night I vanished. Not from the world, from their world. And in the quiet space I left behind, something new began to grow. 1 year slipped by like pages turning in a book I no longer had to read aloud to anyone else. The calendar flipped quietly. No announcements, no big reveal. Just work. Steady. Relentless. The kind that builds without fanfare. Havenline Studios opened its first 3 locations in the spring. Not in Elmwood. Not yet. In the next towns over, places hungry for something fresh. We called them Havenline Collective. Coffee that tasted like care. Tables wide enough for laptops and conversations. Walls lined with local art that rotated every month. Corners with soft lamps and outlets that actually worked. Spaces that invited people to stay, to think, to belong. The first week we were full. Freelancers tapping away at dawn. Students studying late. A retired teacher who came every morning just to read in the quiet light. Word spread. Not because we advertised hard, because people felt seen. Victor Lang called on a Tuesday. His voice calm, but I could hear the smile behind it. Series A came in higher than we projected. Twice what we asked. They're calling it the quietest breakout in Midwest hospitality this year. You ready for more? I stood in the back office of the first store, looking out at the open floor, sun slanting through tall windows onto walnut counters. My counters. Yeah, I said. I'm ready. The local paper ran a small piece a month later. Front page of the business section. Headline simple. Architect who once saved family legacy now builds his own empire. They didn't name Whitaker Bakery. Didn't have to. Anyone who knew, knew. Across town, the old signs began to fade. Grayson had taken over with confidence that lasted about 6 weeks. Then came the shortcuts, delayed orders, staff turnover. The 4th location, the one on the highway, closed quietly in August. Debt notices taped to the door after hours. Customers drifted. First a few, then more. They found their way to Havenline instead. Better light, better music, better everything. One crisp October afternoon, Harlan and Marigold walked into the original Havenline store. They didn't know whose it was, just heard it was the new place everyone's talking about. They ordered black coffee, 2 cups, no sugar. Sat at a corner table near the window. Marigold smoothed her napkin. Harlan stared at the mural on the far wall, abstract waves of coffee beans and wheat fields, the one I'd sketched on graph paper 7 years ago. He frowned, leaned closer. Then his eyes found the logo on the menu. Small, subtle, but unmistakable. Marigold followed his gaze. Her hand paused mid-sip. They sat in silence for a long minute, coffee cooling between them. No words, no scene. Just the slow realization settling like dust. They left without finishing. Harlan held the door for Marigold. She glanced back once at the counter, at the light, at the people laughing softly. Then they were gone. Sable's email arrived 2 weeks later. Subject line: "Let's talk business." The body polite, almost warm. "Boone and I have some ideas. Partnership. We could bring the Whitaker name back strong. Family collab. Call me." I read it twice, felt the old pull for half a second. Then I typed back, short, civil. "Thank you for reaching out. Havenline is a separate venture, no partnerships at this time. Wishing you the best. Sent." No follow-up, no anger, just closure. The Saturday after Thanksgiving, we closed the first store early. Private event, no customers, just us. Caspian and Elowen ran circles around the tables, laughing, chasing each other with streamers Gran Sylvie had brought. Leora set out cupcakes she'd baked herself, chocolate with vanilla frosting. Elowen's favorite. Caspian's too, though he'd never admit it. Gran Sylvie sat at the head table, small, silver-haired, eyes bright. She'd been the only one who never asked me to fix anything, just watched and loved, quietly. We lit candles, sang off-key, watched the kids blow out the candles twice because Caspian insisted on extra wishes. Later, when the kids were coloring at a low table, I stepped to the window. Outside, the streetlights had come on. Rain had started again, soft now, gentle. The Havenline sign glowed against the dark. Simple letters. Warm gold. My name wasn't on it. Didn't need to be. I felt Leora's hand slip into mine. She leaned her head on my shoulder. We stood like that, watching the rain streak the glass, watching the sign shine through it. Gran Sylvie came up behind us, put a hand on my arm. Soft, steady. "You did good, kid," she whispered. Not loud, just for me. I looked down at her, smiled. Small, real. "Legacy isn't something you're given," I said quietly. "It's something you build." She nodded once, eyes shining. Then she turned back to the kids. Left us there. I looked out again, at the sign, at the rain, at the life we'd made when the old one tried to erase us. No triumph roared inside me, no victory speech, just a quiet certainty. Justice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it simply exists. And in that whisper, in that existence, you find the only thing worth keeping. Yourself. Whole. Finally. Finally, let me send my deep thanks to you. Thank you for listening. If this story has touched your heart, I invite you to stay with us to discover more true tales of the Wild West. Stories that honor resilience, tenderness, and the spirit that God placed in those who blazed the trail. Subscribe, share. Leave your thoughts in the comments and join us once again to journey across this untamed land. Thank you. Aviso legal/disclaimer. These stories are crafted purely for entertainment and may contain imaginative additions or dramatic interpretations inspired by old frontier eras. We use AI-based resources, voice imagery and drafting as part of our creative process, but every final detail is carefully reviewed and shaped by human effort to preserve emotional depth and authenticity. We strictly follow YouTube's rules regarding AI-generated content and refrain from deepfakes, altered identities, or misleading representations. All images, sounds, and related materials are lawfully obtained. Please do not reuse, modify, or distribute any portion of this content without written permission. Thank you for valuing creativity, respect, and original work.